Hello everyone, welcome back to the Anatomy Lab. Today we're going to be looking at part of the special senses, specifically the eye and the eye structures for vision. So, first of all, here's the eye. As you can see, the eye is essentially like the shape that you probably have come to know it as, a very round, circular structure, mostly covered by white tissue, but also with a clear space that is going to be located on the front. So what we're going to see is that all of those are going to be very important for the function of the eye, and making sure that the eye can act effectively. So first of all, when you look at the eye, what you're going to see is that there are three major layers. There will be an outer layer, an intermediate layer, and a deep layer. And when you open up the eye, you'll be able to see that as well, as in once again, you have an outer, an intermediate, and a deep layer. So the outer layer is actually called the fibrous tunic. So as we look at the outside of the eye, there are two portions of the outside components, as in there's going to be all of the white out here. That is called the sclera. The sclera is going to allow it to have muscle attachments, protect the eye, but also keep all of the content of the eye within it. So all of this on the outside that you see here is the sclera, and that is going to be located throughout the majority of the eye, except for the very front of the eye. In the very front of the eye, that is where you're going to find a clear, kind of bulged region that is going to be located right here. So this is called the cornea. So the cornea is the very most anterior portion of the eye, and it will be bulging out a little bit, which, number one, being transparent, will allow light to enter the eye, but also help with focusing light a little bit, at the very least, into the eye. So those are the external portions, the white part that protects the eye, and then the clear part that lets light in. Now, intermediate, or deep, or intermediate in the eye, but deep to the sclera, you can see that you have this red layer. And then although red, it is actually going to be very dark, as in highly pigmented and very dark and very vascular. So this is actually called the choroid. So for the most part, what you see all throughout here is going to be the choroid. So all along the outside of the eye, where you find all of the blood vessels, this would be the choroid. But when you get to the anterior portion of the eye, once again, it changes a little bit. So at the anteriormost portion of the eye, when you see this thickened region, this is going to be called the ciliary body. So the ciliary body is going to be at the front of the eye over here, and it is going to be surrounding another structure called the lens. So although we don't have a whole lens here, it would be double-sided, but the lens is going to be surrounded by the ciliary body, and it is going to be another transparent structure that is going to allow light to enter the eye. But specifically, the lens as well as the ciliary body together will help with focusing light. So if you've ever used a manual camera, you may know that you need lenses as well as changing the lens to focus the image, and essentially that's what's happening with the lens here. The ciliary body will either stretch out the lens or allow the lens to become really fat and round to focus on either close or far images. Now there's just a couple more things that we can see here before we move on to the innermost layer, and that would be this right here. So this right here, the colored portion, this is called the iris. So the iris is going to be right in front of the lens, as in if you have the lens here, the iris is right in front of it. So between the cornea and the lens, that's where you find the iris, which is essentially another circular muscle or another circular structure, which is going to be surrounding the hole in the eye. And although it doesn't look like what you would look like in your eye, that's the pupil. When you look at an eye, when you look at someone's eye, that dark dot is not actually a dark dot. It's not a dark circle. It's a hole. It's a dark hole that is allowing you to look into someone's eye and allowing light to enter that eye. So the hole itself would be the pupil, but the colored portion, the circle that's surrounding it, that's the iris. So the iris will help with controlling the size of the pupil to allow it to either allow a lot of light in or to restrict the light that comes in, because if there's too much light, it's going to be super bright, and otherwise, and likewise, if it's too dark, you want to let as much light in as you can. Now finally, moving to our deepest layer though, that is where we have the internalmost layer, which is called the retina. So all of this is really the retina, but there is a part of the retina that you need to know particularly. And that you can see right here, like the yellow circle would be the macula, while this right here would be the fovea centralis. So this little like dimple, that's where you have the majority of your cones. So this would be the fovea centralis and a particular part of the eye where you're specifically trying to focus the light. So your lens and your cornea is allowing light in, and then your lens will try to focus the light here on the fovea centralis. Now, make sure that you know like the layers of all of the the layers of all of the cells that you find within the retina. But in the retina, you're going to have rods, cones, bipolar cells, and ganglion cells. And if you look closely, like there's only one place that goes in and out of the eye. That is going to be back here. So all of the blood vessels, as well as all the axons, as well as axons of all of those neurons, are going to be converging here. So whether it's going in or out, it's going to be converging here as what's called the optic disc. So at the optic disc, this is where you'd have a blind spot because you have no photoreceptors, but this is where you have blood vessels, nerves, and axons really that are going through here. So as the optic nerve or as the optic disc like meets the eye, that is where you have the optic nerve. So all of these yellow fibers, these would be the neurons or the axons of all of those ganglion cells that then go travel posteriorly towards the optic chiasm, towards the optic tract, towards the thalamus, and then towards the occipital lobe. So make sure that you look for these structures based off of their major layers, but don't get confused between its major parts because these layers sometimes have different regions, such as like the ciliary body versus the choroid. So make sure that you're being careful regarding what you're looking at here. But I think that's about it for this video. So good luck. Keep up the good work, and let me know if you have any questions. I'll talk to you all soon.